Hey guys, Acorn Avenger here with part 2 of my Aniki Cosplay review. In part 1 we previously talked about the Kamen Rider Gridon helmet itself. Today we're going to talk about their customer service and my overall experience with them as well. So if you came here wanting to see the helmet itself, then go check that out in part 1 of the review. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to lean you one way or the other. I'm just going to talk to you guys about my experience and whether or not I would recommend them, and you guys can just make your own choice from there. Okay, so as I mentioned in part 1, my Kamen Rider Gridon helmet had never been made by Aniki before. It was a first, and they let me know, in fairness, that it was going to take a long amount of time, or longer. I believe all that they said was that it would take longer than the usual 90 days. 190 days, 160 days. So they used to have a really set number that they were giving to people that they could never realistically meet up to. So I was like, okay, I'll probably have this helmet in 5 or 6 months or so. I'm willing to wait for it. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, so about a month later, trying to get to all of these saved progress pictures of the helmet. Okay, here's the first one. I'll have it on screen for you. Okay, so as you can tell, this obviously looks very, very different than the helmet you saw in part 1. And that is because I believe since they already had their Kamen Rider Zangetsu helmet, since they already had that mold completed, and they've had that completed for a few years now, I think. I believe they kind of used that as a reference, kind of used the same basic shape and everything. I actually kind of had a suspicion that this was not my helmet, that they were sending me a picture of someone else's Zangetsu helmet in early production. They sent me this about a month after I made the order. So I was like, okay, they're making progress. At this rate, things should be done pretty fast. In our second picture, they sent me this a few weeks later. You can see some of the details starting to take shape. It's starting to look a little bit more like Gridon. Just a quick tip, if anybody has ordered from Aniki and you feel like you're not getting updates like you should, you're not seeing progress like you should, be sure to ask frequently, like more frequently than you would like to. I was definitely contacting them more than they wanted me to, and at first I kind of felt bad for that, but the more I thought about it, I realized that this is my order and I can really ask them as much about it as I want. I was pretty polite with them throughout the entire ordeal, and that's very important too. I think the nicer you are to them, the more you can just have a civilized discussion. I think the better your experience will be. So just keep that in mind before you're ready to go off on these people. Okay, third picture, not looking very good. I feel like they had to redo a lot of this, because this is looking really different in some spots as compared to the final product. After about 2-3 months of hearing absolutely nothing, I messaged them and I asked, what's the deal? I assumed the helmet was nearly finished. You know, I thought you guys just had to paint it, put the visor in, and call it a day. Basically what they told me was that my helmet was in what they call the casting process, and you know, to make a mold for them to use. If someone orders this helmet again, in complete honesty, it's very unlikely. I don't really think there's a lot of Gridon fans out there, and if they are, they're a very, very quiet minority. But I was like, okay, that makes sense. That's a pretty legitimate response. I was still unsure as to why it was taking this long, but I was like, okay, just let them do their thing. And I gave them about another month before I contacted them again. I was like, okay, this is weird. My name is not showing up in any of the progress or shipping lists. And I messaged them again. And basically what they said this time is that your helmet is still in the casting process, and they sent me this picture. So basically, my helmet had just been sitting there for the past 3 months, just completely untouched, completely no progress made. I thought maybe they would have started working on the visor, or the red jewel on the forehead or something like that, you know. But no. And then about a month after that, I commented on one of their Instagram posts asking, how long does the helmet need to stay in the casting process? Mine has been in the casting process for about 4 months now. When will it be ready for painting? In which they responded, casting is only took a day at most. Please contact the production staff about this. So at this point, it was about December of 2018 or January of 2019, I believe, and I was starting to get pretty paranoid. I was really thinking something maybe went wrong, or maybe they just weren't going to work on it. They weren't planning on working on it. I don't know. So a few months went by. Every few weeks or so, I was asking if any progress was being made on my helmet, if they were working on it at all. They weren't really giving me real answers. They sent me a picture of the helmet out of the casting process, which is what you're seeing right now, before they cleaned it up, and then they sent me a picture after they cleaned it up. But you know, it's just not real progress. So I was getting pretty disappointed. I was getting pretty unhappy, not gonna lie. And then July rolled by. I want to say late July, and they sent me pictures of the helmet completely painted. And in short, it looked fantastic. I was very happy with it. I was very excited. I was like, all right, they didn't completely forget about me. So that was definitely a good feeling, and I thought I would have the helmet in a matter of weeks, or at most a couple months. I was wrong yet again. Turns out the visor they were working on, they weren't very happy with. They just didn't feel like was very up to quality. Here's a picture of it. They hadn't yet added the yellow color to it yet, and as you can see, it is incorrect. It is not accurate to the actual helmet. So I have to admit, restarting on the visor was a good move. I would definitely not be very happy with it if it showed up to my door like this. Not upset about this at all. However, another 4 months go by before I get another update, and they send me this picture. The helmet is completed, the helmet is done, and they just need to know my address before they can send it to me. And I was like, that's great, the waiting is over. It had been about 14 months at this point. Apparently the way Aniki Cosplay operates is that they have a certain shipping quota that they need to reach before they can send out their monthly shipments, I believe it was. I'm pretty sure they do it every month. That sounds about right. But I guess they were having trouble meeting the quota because they didn't ship it out to me until early January. That is when they actually shipped it out. So it took about a month, maybe a little more, to actually ship it out to me. So that's just another month, total of about 5 months now that my helmet was just sitting there having nothing being done to it. And then I finally received the helmet itself on January 10th of this year, 2020. You can watch the review here if you haven't seen it yet. And as you could tell by the review, if you have seen it, I'm very pleased with it. It's an objectively very good product. I have no complaints about the helmet itself whatsoever. I'm very pleased now that the ordeal is over with. Would I order from Aniki Cosplay again? Honestly, yeah, I probably would. As somebody who likes to create cosplays themselves, it is very hard to make a helmet or a piece of armor or whatever as well as Aniki does it. Aniki, as a business, is so talented, so good at what they do. The molds are excellent, the paint job, excellent. It's just something that most people cannot really do on their own. The key to having as good of a connection with Aniki as I did, if you could even call that good, is to just be civil. You can hit them up pretty much as you want to. Every few weeks or so, I can't tell you how many times they've asked me to just wait 2 to 3 weeks before I message them again. I guess they think they will have made progress in 2 to 3 weeks, but most of the time they don't. Maybe other people's experiences have been very different. While it wasn't amazing, but I ordered a helmet, and at the end of the day, although I guess I should really say end of the year, I got my helmet, and I'm very happy with it. I'm very pleased with it. I plan on commissioning an entire Gridon cosplay from them. Just be nice to these people, please. Please do your best to be civil and to be understanding. I know it's difficult when you throw all this money out there at them and it feels like it's not coming back to you in any sort of way. I understand how difficult that is, but they get so many orders over there. And remember guys, Aniki's not the only person that you have to go to. Here are just a few great cosplay makers that are really, really good at what they do. Are they as good as Aniki? Meh. But most of them also charge a cheaper price, so, you know, kind of evens out. Well, this video has been quite a bit longer than I was expecting for it to be, so I think I'll just stop here. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the two-parter review. If you have any further questions, do not hesitate to ask in the comment section down below. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys at the next video.